There, now we got it working. I had a little bit of technical trouble. Good afternoon. I'm Bob. I'm chaplain here at Blue Water Hospice and Bereavement. And as you could tell by the little teaser we put on there, and by the way, and this is what I do, I bunny trail a lot, so thanks for tolerating that. If you're watching this, start a watch party and we can share this with as many people as we can. What I wanted to talk about today, and I won't keep you super long, you can tell by the teaser, is we've all said some dumb stuff. I am more guilty about that than anybody at the most inopportune times, and I've had dumb stuff said to me. So hopefully we'll give you a little bit of tools, pardon me, some good things that we can say. And I was thinking, when I was putting this together of a man I know, and he was watching the Miss Universe pageant on TV with his wife. And he blurted out, he said, "Man, I can't imagine what it's like to be married to someone that beautiful." I bet you he would want to take that back. That was probably a dumb thing to say. I remember years ago, they were going to do at the one church I was at, like a bridal show. So people who had been married, they could come and they would do it like a fashion show, and you could put on the wedding dress that you wore, and the wife was going to do that. And I said the most unwise thing I could have said. I said, "Who do you think you can still fit in it?" There was a time, like right after those words left my lips, but I couldn't stop. It was like, no, and I couldn't bring them back. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not saying that was smart. I'm just saying we've all done this kind of stuff. There's a difference sometimes between being insensitive or just not thinking. And I kind of want to deal with both a little bit. Especially when we're dealing with loss. People can be very insensitive. One lady, her husband had died of cancer when they were young. He was 35 and she was 26. And she said, "I still recoil when I think of the number of people who said, 'You're young, you'll find someone else.'" Wow, that's a terrible thing to say. Someone who's lost their husband and wants somebody else. She wanted her husband. I was helping one time with an annual memorial event that we did called the Walk to Remember. We did this in northern Michigan. October is Child and Infant Loss Month. So because this had touched our family personally, we helped with these events. And the first one, there was some different parts of the event that took place, and we had a guest speaker who was a local minister. And he's trying to relate. Now remember, we've got all these families around who have lost their children. That is the hardest thing that you can imagine. And the pastor was trying to relate with them. And he said things like that he had lost a cousin or a niece. "So I understand just how you feel," were the words that came out of his mouth. And I'm watching my brother-in-law, he's turning red. I almost went up and took the mic from him because that was inappropriate. So we're not here to compete with other people or grief or try to even relate. When someone says, "I understand how you feel," no, that is not what you want to hear because no one really does. Your feelings are your own. When you have a loss, those are very personal to you. And people can be insensitive. I've done more often I stick my foot in my mouth, unintentionally. I was coming out of a funeral home, and as we were leaving, there was another group of people that were walking in, and I recognized the one lady, and I realized her husband had just passed. She said, "Hi, Bob." I said the dumbest thing that you could ever say. I said, "How's it going?" She looked at me, she said, "Well, good." I didn't mean anything by it. It's just we have such a conditioned response when we meet someone. We'll say things like, how are you doing? And I've had people say that to me, and do you really want to know? Do you really care how I'm doing? Because if you're asking, I'm liable to tell you. And it wasn't intentional. I just didn't know what else to say. It just sort of blurted out. So there are things that we should never ask. And I know I'm singing to the choir here because you guys have been through this. You've heard these things. And I've had to learn this stuff the hard way. Never ask to someone. I was talking to my sister-in-law who, my brother and sister-in-law, lost their son. He was captain in the Army. And people would ask her all the time, how are you doing? The intent of that question may be one thing, but the impact was different. Rather than getting into it, because what she wanted to say and what my brother wanted to say is, I'm doing horrible. I've had the worst experience anyone could ever imagine. But rather than getting into it and reliving it, we're doing okay. Another one that asks all the time, and I'm guilty of most of this stuff. I've learned through the school of hard knocks. Experience and bad choices are a great teacher. And I ask, do you need anything? Again, while the intent of that question may be okay, it puts on the person who has experienced the loss an obligation to come up with something that they need. And the reality is, if you're my friend, don't ask me if I need anything. You'll just know what I need and you'll just take care of it. A friend of mine, he had an issue and their child was in children's hospital. I didn't ask him what he needed. I knew that he took pride in his lawn. More than I ever did. You never wanted to come in my yard. I hate yard work. I am not that guy who likes to work around the house. But I knew that would stress him. So I went over there and I just got the lawnmower and I started cutting his lawn and trimming it. He looked out the window and he didn't say anything to me. It was weeks later. He said people were asking him, if he needed anything, and he said I couldn't come up with anything. He said I didn't want to worry about my lawn. I didn't feel like he said, Bob, that's what I needed. Sometimes just find a need and fill it. It does more than offering lip service and asking. And it's not always about offering lip service. I've asked this question too, and I may have told you this story before. It was years ago. A brother and sister, they were in their 50s, and the father was my patient, and I was out of town on my way back, and I found out that he had passed. So as a young'un, I asked a dumb question. I said, is there anything I can do? She said, well, can you carpet our bathroom? I said, well, I can do it. I says, I'm not real great with seams, so if it's under 12 foot wide, yeah, we'll do it. She started laughing. I said, what's so funny? She says, we had so many people ask us, is there anything that I can do, that we promise the next person that question come out of their mouth, we're going to give them something to do and make it up. And she said, we really didn't think you would do it. I said, well, I did ask because I want to help. And I didn't think of what that question would do. Would make them, because I always felt obligated to come up with something. I would have gladly carpeted the bathroom if that's what provides someone comfort. Now please don't everybody call the hospice home and start asking for the chaplain to come over and do maintenance projects, because I'll probably turn you down. But you never know. Sometimes I like to pick up a hammer or a trowel and and do some stuff. But find a need and fill it. Or we try to ask questions. Here's a good one, and I've seen this happen. Someone dies of lung cancer. And then a person asks, oh, did he smoke? Did she smoke? Well, you're not really asking anything that cares about that person that has a loss, or that has, or about the person who passed. What you're really saying is, man, this is a scary, and I hope it doesn't happen to me. That's not going to be comforting. So if you're asking those kind of questions, my advice would be, stop it. I'm on my computers while I'm looking down. I wrote some things down. I've heard people say to someone at a funeral home, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't visit because I don't do hospitals. I don't like hospitals. Well, who does? I don't know too many people who love the hospital, but a visit, it's easy to visit afterwards, but take the time before someone passes. I've heard people, say, I didn't call because I figured you wanted to be alone. And that may be the case. I've had losses myself and I did want to be alone, but there's something comforting. Call, leave a voicemail, a text, an email, or something. I don't care what the conversation is, but what I do know is someone cared and they reached out to me. There is no bright side when someone has a loss. And if you ever ask or make a statement that starts with these two words, at least he's not suffering anymore. That's not going to bring comfort to somebody who's all of a sudden their whole life has changed because they've lost someone they've been with forever. And, well, at least he's not suffering, or at least they're in a better place. If you're going to start off a statement with at least, please just stop. It's not going to be helpful. And again, I know I'm singing to the choir because we've all had these things said to us. What can we say though? I mean, because there are good things, that we can say. Said to someone, because I didn't know what to say. And we have this need to try to fix stuff. It's not fixable. So something like, oh, I know you must have really loved him. That's a good positive statement. The reason that they're hurting, or the reason that you were hurting, is because of love. That pain that you feel, that's a cost of loving somebody. So acknowledging that love, that's a good thing. Or acknowledging that you don't have any answers. And I've said, I wish I had the right words for you. That's empathetic. That's showing compassion. That's showing understanding to the depth of the pain, that I know there's nothing that I am going to say that's going to be adequate. There is, you probably heard me say this before, there is no statement I can make. There is no scripture I'm going to read to them. There is no prayer that I'm going to say that's going to make someone all of a sudden go, oh, I feel good about that. Now, I still may at times use a scripture. I still may pray. There's a time and an appropriate place, for everything. When someone tries to compete with your feelings, I was in the store, and I just found out I've had two incidents in the same store. One that my sister had passed, and I don't hardly have the words out of my mouth to someone that's a friend. He said, "Oh yeah, well, we know how you feel. My wife lost her cousin." No, you do not know how I feel. We were very close. I'm not taking anything away from her losing her cousin. This experience was unique to me, and what I needed was a friend just to listen, and you robbed me of that. So sometimes a better thing to say is, I can't imagine how you feel. In a way that's comforting, because it validates that, man, I'm going through this pain. You're acknowledging my pain, and you're there with me, and you're saying you can't imagine what that must be like. That can be a very helpful statement. I remember when a friend of ours had passed away suddenly. He was 51 years old, and our two sons were friends. They were on the swim team together, and they were close friends. And we went to the funeral home, and my son, I think, was 12 or 13. I was so proud of him, and this is another one of those stories that I probably told you before. He walked up to him, and he said, "I'm so sorry. I'm your friend, and I'm here for you." I thought, I am so proud of that boy. That was the best thing. That is the best thing that he could have said. Sometimes we just need someone to be there. And sometimes we can just be there for someone else. I experienced a loss. I had a betrayal of the worst possible kind that you can imagine. And I went to a friend of mine who was a youth pastor, actually, at that time, and we became friends. And I went into his office, and I told him what happened. And I just broke down. This was pain that I never thought I'd ever feel, this type of pain of that type of a loss. And it had so blindsided me, and the pain was so real. He didn't try to give me encouraging words. He didn't try to give me a scripture to solve my problem. He didn't try to solve my problem. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "I love you." That was the exact perfect thing that I needed. Your job, our role is not to fix this for people. We can't. We all have this desire that we hate to see someone suffering, and we want to make it better. Your role is simply this: be present. When you're just present, that's all it takes. That time of when you sign the guest book. Down the road, they're going to read that guest book and just know that you were there. That's all that matters. They know someone was there that cared for me. And they will just feel your support and your compassion. I know, and I don't mean to be complaining about things that that people have said, because I'm the guilty one who has done this. And again, I've learned this through the school of hard knocks and through making bad choice. Experience is a greatest teacher. And I know that I'm speaking to the wrong crowd, because we have been on the receiving side of these statements, as well as sometimes we've made mistakes. But there is hope. You see, it is that I go back to our intent. It's the intent versus the impact. Our intent may very well be just to provide comfort, to provide hope, to offer support. But when we make those statements, the impact is totally different. But the good news is we can have the right intent and have a great impact by being present with someone. And we also need to understand that that's what people are doing. Really, when they say these things to us, when we're going through the grieving process, they mean well. And I think we understand that. Sometimes I've been too easily offended. As much as we need, and I'm going to close with this, as much as we need understanding and forgiveness, there is freedom in being understanding and forgiving. Let's do that. Thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes. And if you need anything, you can always call